Peace, y'all. It's Taj again. I had a quick video I wanted to do. This is something that I'm kind of passionate about because I got small children that like playing games like Minecraft, Roblox, etc. And if you have small children, you should be aware of some of these organizations that are out here trying to corrupt the youth. So the first one I wanted to talk about, and this is kind of what they all come back into, is cvlt, or cult. It was an international neo-Nazi and nihilist online organization that was responsible for acts of child exploitation. Several of these organizations' leaders were arrested in the United States for producing child pornography and coercing minors to commit self-harm. According to police, Cult has exploited approximately 2 minors in California and 16 minors around the world in total, which is totally incorrect. The United States Department of Justice described it as an online group that espoused neo-Nazism, nihilism, and pedophilia as its core principles. Cult is affiliated with the COM, a broad network of international cybercriminals. Cult became known after one of its leaders, Caleb Merritt, was caught and convicted of raping a girl and taking inappropriate pictures of her. Cult was created in 2019 by an Indian school student named Rohan Rain. Cult started out as a Discord community with a couple of hundred members who were followers of far-right ideologies. Rohan started attracting underage girls from around the world to join his community and chat with him and his cult members. Eventually, he managed to convince them to send him nude photos of themselves and use them to blackmail them into doing self-harm, including suicide, before being arrested in 2021. Other members of Cult were arrested in 2025. Cult is considered to be the predecessor of 764, and we'll get there, influential child exploitation network. Its founder, Bradley Cadenhead, was inspired by Cult to create the network, specifically after talking with one of Cult's members in a Minecraft server. Cult was created sometime in 2019 by a then 29-year-old top business school student named Rohan Rain, an Indian immigrant living in Antibes, France. Reportedly, he was bored from COVID-19 lockdown restrictions and decided to create his own community of Discord to chat to people named Cult. That's interesting because, if I'm not mistaken, COVID-19 lockdowns didn't start until March of 2020, but I could be mistaken on that. Back to it, Rohan said the community was a place where he came to proclaim his hatred of Jews and Muslims, with members of Cult holding neo-Nazi and fascist ideologies. Cult amassed over 150 members. Some were not able to be identified by the FBI during the investigation. An FBI agent got interested in Cult in the spring of 2020, and he was investigating an American 15-year-old American girl who unsuccessfully attempted to commit suicide by slashing her throat after communicating with Rohan. It was revealed to him that the girl sent Rohan nude photos of herself, and he formed a romantic relationship with her and gained her trust. After he had the photos, Rohan blackmailed her to send him more, and if she didn't obey him, he threatened to send the photos to the girl's relatives. The agent sent his findings to French law enforcement, which prompted a judicial investigation on October 6, 2020 by OCRVP. Rohan was taken into custody the next year on April 6, 2021, and is awaiting his sentence in solitary confinement. He turned 28 as of 2025 and is charged with the acts of torture and barbarity, corruption of minors in an organized gang, and extortion in an organized gang. When Rohan was arrested, the police searched his home. They discovered more than a dozen videos of his victims on his phone and computer. The recordings show young girls between the ages of 11 and 16 filming themselves to do acts of self-harm. Their acts include cutting themselves, strangling themselves with belts, and drinking bleach while crying. While in custody, Rohan described himself as a psychopath devoid of any emotion. He said that he is interested in fascism and the Aryan Brotherhood. Mind you, this is an Indian man. He also said that he felt excited by seeing blood and violence, the blood and violence of his victims. Lee Figaro reported that Rohan authored a guide titled How to Get a Girl. In the guide, he described himself as a guru and bragged about attracting dozens of young girls. The guide explained his ways of attracting them, including that he threatened to ruin the lives of his prey and forced them to mutilate themselves by shoving blunt objects into their private areas, commit suicide, or to even eat feces. Rohan also said that all Western feminists have rape fantasies. Wow. Rohan was permitted access to his phone during his incarceration. In an interview with investigators, Rohan defended himself by saying that all of the girls filmed were adults who performed the actions willingly and everything they did was staged, including their expressions of pain. In one interrogation, he said that there was no connection between cult and 764. He also said he has a hatred of humanity. He confessed of targeting girls of Jewish and Muslim origin, as well as feminists who denounce Hitler or Mussolini. In a Reddit post before he was called, Rohan described, quote, as dark and sadistic. He said that he made his slaves cut his name on their bodies and everything he does is legal. He added that the ultimate goal of cult was to create an endless supply of masochistic people to satisfy my sadism, and my cult is existing for that very reason. Two men, Colin Walker and Caleb Merritt, acted as leaders of cult. They were responsible for hosting and maintaining cult's online servers, controlling its membership. Both of them were arrested and charged with one count of engaging in child exploitation enterprise in 2025. Caleb Merritt was also one of the first cult members and its prominent child groomer. He used online names E-Terrorist, O9A, and Evil. One of cult's affiliated groups, led by Bradley Cadenhead, broke off before it became known as 764. For creating 764, Cadenhead had produced child exploitation videos of him mutilating himself or committing animal abuse. His online name was known as Brad764, Felix 764 in the cult community. Some groups that broke off from cult have neo-Nazi and accelerationist ideologies, mimicking the style of Telegram network. AAST is one of cult's neo-Nazi splinter groups. Some of the group's members reportedly took part in the Russian invasion of Ukraine on the side of Russia and posted about it on Telegram. According to Great Dynamics, both cult and 764 are successors or an even older organization, Order of Nine Angles, and share its ideology, neo-Nazism, Satanism, and Wesso-esotericism. Le Monde said both organizations had many members who pledged allegiance to O9A. Rohan stated there is a hierarchy within cult, that members of the group were promoted to higher ranks based on their severity of illegal content they uploaded. Rohan used Instagram and other social medias to provoke cult, including Roblox. After the victim joined the community, he manipulated them into sending sexual photos of themselves before using them to blackmail them. Cult targeted mostly vulnerable children and made them watch NSFW videos to desensitize them to violence and sadism. The examples included animals being tortured to death or women being raped on camera. Rohan's demands the girl to the girls he blackmailed included requests to cut his name or Nazi swastikas on their skin, masturbate using knives, drink bleach, or eat their own hair. If they didn't comply, he promised the victims to reveal the photos to their relatives. Sometimes Colt would carry out the threats. All of the acts were recorded on webcams and broadcast live on Colt Discord server. Other acts included victims punching themselves, calling themselves racial slurs, and in extreme cases, cult members swatting them or making them commit suicide on live streams. According to a prosecutor, other unnamed suspects may have been participated in cult's activity. Throughout its history, the organization managed to extort approximately 16 children around the world, including 2 children in San Bernardino County, California. The countries where victims of Rohan lived included Canada, UK, Germany, New Zealand, and Estonia. Martin Estrada, former prosecutor in California, said that there may be hundreds more unidentified victims based on the amount of child porn videos Cult made. Police said that the victims were known to have a history of sexual abuse, trauma, or mental health issues. Cult was a member of the COM, an international cyber criminal network made of various groups. Extremist groups of the COM were known to carry out similar crimes. Cult was described by law enforcement as a neo-Nazi group. However, an unnamed cybersecurity expert quoted by Rolling Stone said that the group only used it for shock value and to look more provocative while not genuinely believing in Nazism. Yeah, right. Le Monde described neo-Nazi aesthetics of Cult in 76.4 as confused and poorly understood. Saying they only exist to gain acceptance for their members. Yeah, okay. In 2021, Cult and the splinter group 764 started being investigated by law enforcement after Rohan was arrested in France, and a man named Caleb Merritt, one of Cult's leaders living in Texas, was arrested and convicted of kidnapping and raping a minor. He is currently serving 33 years in Pocahontas State Correctional Center. Reportedly, Merritt communicated with an underage girl on a Cult's Discord server and convinced her to run away from her family to have sex with him in the woods. The police found Merritt and the girl in Henderson, North Carolina, and arrested him. The girl later said that Merritt made her cut his name into her leg and pressured her to send him inappropriate photos of herself to prove her devotion to their relationship. He was later charged with violating 4 more children the next year. In 2022, all remaining high-profile members of Cult joined 764 and resumed doing their crimes using Cult's methods. On January 2021, Riley Williams, participant of the January 6th Capitol attack, who stole the laptop of Nancy Pelosi, bragged about her crime on a Cult-affiliated Discord server. She was later arrested and sentenced to 3 years in prison. On April 2021, 21-year-old Cult member Richard Ameyer was arrested in East London by Metropolitan Police for possessing 29 indecent images of children on his phone. National Crime Agency were investigating him since he was 17 years old, the age when he joined the Cult server. My thing is, so if you known this for that long, 17 to 20, you knew that for 4 years and you just got on this dude, something not quite right about that. Emir was charged and convicted of 2 counts of fraud and 3 counts of sharing indecent images of children on Cult server that he visited 383 times. He was sentenced on May 2025, receiving 12 months in prison, 18 months suspended, and 10 years of restrictions. On December 13, 2023, FBI arrested 18-year-old Kalana Limpkin for the possession of child pornography. His court records showed that he was a former member of cult in 764, and he also confessed to being during this year, FBI issued warnings about 764 and its subgroups, which included cult. On December 11, 2024, 20-year-old Baron Martin was arrested and charged on production of child pornography and child cyberstalking on Discord. He was a member of cult in 764. On February 2025, 2 members of cult were arrested on 1 count of engaging in child exploitation enterprise. The arrestees, Clint Bourget, 43-year-old man living in Paoa, Hawaii, and Colin Walker, 23-year-old man in Bridgeton, New Jersey. The police also charged 2 leaders of cult who were already incarcerated, Rohan Rain and Caleb Merritt, with the same crime. The 2 men will be sentenced to either 20 years in prison or life without parole if found guilty. The arrest operation was initiated after a student in Iowa State University in November 2020 reported to the police that a person he met online in 2018 was trying to coerce and abuse him. 2 months later, an investigator assigned to the case started investigating the IP address of the suspect in Hawaii. She managed to track the owner to the IP address using its banking data and revealed the suspect to be Clint Bourget. She executed a search warrant of his residence and interrogated him on August 2021. She then called Crimes Against Children Task Force to help her with the case. The organization later managed to connect Bourget to HSI-led case in California involving 4 cult members, one of whom is still unidentified. She informed HSI about Bourget, and they identified and connected him to the group. The investigation took 4 years to complete. So my thing is, all right, they're putting up a lot of surveillance. They're putting up a lot of tracking, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. My thing is the bias that has been put in there to obviously overlook some of these crimes that people in high positions may be in. Now, until we can honestly sit down and have a conversation about technology and what its purpose is going to be moving forward, like,